Okay. Well, first of all, I just really have to say how excited I am to be a part of yet another winter where we come together with the Mississippi Project. It's hard to believe that this project was started, conceived actually in 1993, while I was still in law school. And in the summer of 1993, I was interning, and I heard about a National Lawyers Guild conference, and I was very familiar with the Guild and their work, and as a Radical Voice, had been to some of their events as a non-lawyer. So when I heard that the Guild was having a conference at NYU, right down in the village, I said, well, hey, I need to get down there. So when I saw, I actually ran into two colleagues, Bob Rose and Camille Massey. And around that same time, I'd received a mailing from a good friend of mine and basically someone who I consider my partner in crime in terms of being a people's lawyer. He's actually one of my early teachers in terms of the law and how to use it in service of people and in service of actually making revolution and making change. So he sent me an article about Andre Jones, who had been found hanging in his jail cell in Simpson County Jail. And Andre was one of about 65 people who had been found that way in Mississippi jails. And so when I saw the article, I said, this is in Mississippi. This is where we need to be. We've gone to Cuba. We've done trips to Haiti. CUNY has been in the forefront. So I said, this is one of the times we need to be in Mississippi because, after all, it is a third world country. So when I proposed it to Bob and Camille, they were excited about the idea. And right then and there, we decided to meet and continue talking. We came up with the idea to start the Mississippi Project. And it was my thought that we would investigate these jail hangings, that we would do legal research, and we would do outreach. We would use our skills both as up-and-coming wannabe lawyers, but more importantly, as radicals, as organizers. We would use those tools to bring about justice and to expose the atrocities that were occurring in the latter part of the 20th century. So we opened up the process with an application, and we invited people to come and participate. We wanted to take a delegation. We started fundraising. We asked the school to help, and Hayward Burns was just a magnificent leader all the way around. He was the dean at that time and totally invested in what we were doing, gave us the first seed money, and his huge hugs and blessings for us to go out and do this work. So we went into the application process, and unfortunately the first round, we were not diverse at all. As the founder or the initial visionary of the project, I was the only person of color, and everyone else in the project was a white radical, a white revolutionary. So no problem with that, but the issue was we needed more people. We needed a diverse delegation to reflect the fabric of what we were trying to do. So we reached out again, and we began to recruit from Balsa and Lisette, and we finally did have a remarkable and incredible delegation of 17 initially. We took 3 minivans, and we drove from New York City on a snowy Sunday morning. We left from Avis Rent-A-Car on 76th Street, right across from the Beacon Theater, and we drove all the way. We stopped in Virginia, some crazy, terrible dive-type hotels, but, we were revolutionaries. We really didn't care. As long as we didn't get bitten by roaches, we were okay. So we drove out. We stopped halfway and parked ourselves in hotel rooms, camping out, having breakfast at places that you really shouldn't try this at home. I mean, some of the stuff was pretty bad. Dunkin' Donuts one day, Waffle House the next, but we made it to Mississippi, and we peered off. Some went to Greenville, which is where we're located, and they were going to do voting rights work with Judge Margaret Carey McRae, who was then Margaret Carey McRae, who was our lawyer sponsor and our trainer. So some folks peeled off to Greenville, others peeled off to the Gulf Coast, where they were going to be working on turnkey cases and jail and prison hangings. And I myself and 5 other students went to Jackson, where we were going to specifically work on the Andre Jones case and the case of Mary Sorrell, who was an African-American woman who had been plagued with mental illness, had been placed in jail, and they knew her situation. They knew that she had had bouts with suicidal attempts and all manner of problems that she had incurred because of her illness, and yet, after an altercation with another inmate, they put her in what we consider to be solitary confinement with the sheets still on the bed. And she tore the sheets, made a noose, and she took her own life. So we charged that the state killed Mary Sorrell, and we charged that the state killed Andre Jones because he was not suicidal. He had no history of mental illness. He had 2 scholarships, and he was on his way to college the very next day. And so we worked these cases. We worked across 3 regions here in the state of Mississippi in an incredible way and in an amazing way. Lawyers and community people participated with us. So that was the first delegation of the Mississippi Workers Center. The first delegation of the Mississippi Project. And at that time, our principal organizing sponsor was the Center for Constitutional Rights under the leadership of Margaret Carey, who is now Judge Margaret Carey McCray. And when we first got together for our orientation, which was here in Greenville, we had conversations about the history of strife, struggle, resistance, and oppression here in Mississippi. And those struggles revealed to us the legacy of resistance, the legacy of staunch, naked, institutionalized racism and sexism and homophobia and all manner of oppression against people from all walks of life here in this state. And so we were thrown into that history, and that history formed our backdrop. That history actually is what fueled us and tooled us to do what it is that we did. And I was privileged to be able to listen really closely to the story of Andre Jones and wrote a song called The Fruit Is Still Strange, which actually is a takeoff of the original song, Strange Fruit. Talks about how Andre Jones was found and how these killings occur and why they still occur in the last part of the 20th century. So the second delegation was also very spirited, but we took 3 cars this time. We had 11 students, a few less than we had the original time, but the work was every bit as meaningful. We worked on actual cases. We shotgunned lawyers in the courtroom. We helped to select juries. We helped to write briefs. And to our credit, CUNY, to our credit, there is a brief out there on sovereign and qualified immunity that is still being used by lawyers to this day, that was written by first and second year law students the first year and revised the second year of our tour as the Mississippi Project. We took interviews, we had a community reception, we built our work around the contacts and the voices in the community. And so it is critical, it's absolutely critical that this project, which has now become an institution, that it continue. I can see it as it stretches across the state of Mississippi. I saw us after Katrina when we not only went to the Mississippi Gulf Coast, but we went to New Orleans. And there were students who joined us who were not part of the Mississippi Project who specifically asked, can we come and be a part of the 2-week experience, even though we're not part of the Mississippi Project, even though we don't go to CUNY. There was a young woman from the University of Arizona, and there were students from UCLA who joined the Mississippi Project, became honorary members of the project. There were young people who were undergraduate students from Sarah Lawrence who came, and so it has been, the CUNY students have been the leaders. They've been in the forefront. They've been the example of how you can use a very complex set of rituals and laws and rules to demystify that which we need in order to take this struggle forward. And this program, there is nothing like it. There is nothing like the Mississippi Project. And I'm not saying that because I'm considered the founder. It's gone so far beyond what I expected and my expectation. So I'm kind of the quasi-founder, because the true visionaries are those who take it forward. And that's every single lawyer coming into being that's ever come through these doors, that's ever come to this flat land called the Mississippi Delta, has gone up a little ways to Hinds County, sloped down through the Gulf Coast region to see and find and discover that not only is the oppression still very, very stark and severe and evasive and pervasive, but the resistance is rising. And it's rising in new forms now. We have our own Occupy group. We have coalitions of people who are resisting what is happening to us now in the climate that we're in. And we need you to keep coming. Every season, we need you to keep coming. We need you to send other soldiers to fight this battle. And I'm just so delighted to have you. I'm sorry to see you go, but I know you need to get back so you can finish up and graduate and join me and other people's lawyers in this fight. Thank you so much for coming.